Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing okay during the quarantine. Hopefully it's almost done. But to get started with my lesson, I am doing a 5th grade lesson, TEK number 2, letter C, and it is round decimals to the tenths or hundredths place. So we're going to get started with a quick anchor chart. Now if you were doing it in person, of course you would write it with the students. You would have them repeat the information back to you just so they solidify that kind of learning. But we're just going to review it real quick and let's get started. So this is the anchor chart that you would do with your students. So let's just read it real quick. It says, find your place and look next door. 4 or less, let it rest, so it stays the same. 5 or more, let it soar, so you're going to add one more. All digits in front just stay the same. All digits behind zeros their name. So we're going to start with our first example, which is round. We're going to round to the nearest hundredths place. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, of course, if your students are not really good with place value or rounding, you would take this time to work on that previous learning. You would help them out. So I've also included rounding rules, which may be helpful if your students need that extra help. So this is for that. So there's 4 different steps. You're going to find their rounding place. You're going to circle it. Step 2, you are going to go next door and you are going to underline that digit. Step 3, you're going to ask yourself, is it 4 or less? You're going to let it rest. If it's 5 or more, you're going to raise the score or let it soar, so you're just going to add one more. In step 4, you're going to change all numbers to the right of the circle to 0. Okay, keeping in mind those rounding rules that we've already learned and that your students hopefully know, we're going to work through this quick example before we get started on the activity. So if we go back to the rules, you're going to find the rounding place and circle it. So our question says you're going to round to the nearest hundredths place. So looking at your number, where's the hundredths place? It's right here. So then you're going to go next door and you're going to underline the digit. In this case, it's 9. And if you remember, 4 or less, you let it rest. 5 or more, you're going to raise the score or let it soar. So in this case, it's 9, so it's more, so you're going to raise it. So you're going to start by writing all the numbers in front of it, because all the numbers in front are going to stay the same. So see, it is staying the same. And since you're going to let it soar, you are going to change this number 1 up. So this would be 8. And if you remember, all digits behind zeros their name. So you're going to change the 9 to a 0. And that is the example. Now, depending on how your students are remembering and how they're working with these problems with your examples, you would do a couple more examples if they need to. But if not, we can go ahead and get started with the actual explore activity. So the explore activity, they're going to be doing a partner round off activity. So you're going to need a dice and the actual form. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those and we can get started with that. So this is the actual worksheet that the students will complete. I could not print it out because I broke my printer, but let's read the directions real quick. So player 1 will fill in the blanks below to create a decimal written in standard form. Then player 2 will roll the dice to determine which place value to round to. If player 2 gets it correct, he or she gets a point. If player 2 gets it wrong, then player 1 gets the point. The player with the most points in the end will win. These are the rounding rules. So if you roll a 1 with your dice, you round to the tenths place. 2, the hundredths. 3, the thousandths. 4 ones, 5 tens, and 6 hundredths. So you're going to write the number. Player 1 will write the number right here. You're going to write what you are rounding to, so what you rolled, the rounded number, and who won. Okay, so we're going to do a really quick example of this. So here's the worksheet. It would be typed out and not nice, but like I said, I broke my printer. So player 1 would write a number in here. So I'm just going to write 563.145. 8. We'll do that. And then player 2 is going to go ahead and roll the dice and see what they get. So let's say that player 2 went ahead and rolled a 2. Now, according to the worksheet, the rounding rule is that 2 is you're going to round to the hundredths place. So looking at your number, or your worksheet, you're going to write hundredths right here. So then right here, you would start writing your answer. Remember, all digits in front just stay the same. So the 563.1 is still the same. The 4 is what you're rounding to, so that's going to change. Because we determined that this is 5 or more, we're going to raise the score. So you're going to raise this by 1. So this is going to turn into a 5. And if remember, all digits in front just stay the same. All digits behind, 0 is their name. So you're going to change the last numbers to 0. And there's your answer. So if the player got it right, you're going to go ahead and write the winner's name right here. And the kids can keep playing that until they run out of room, or the time's done, and whoever has the most points win. So for a closure, what you're going to ask your students to do is they're going to work with their partner. They're going to have a couple minutes to do this, and they're going to come up with their own problem. The problem has to include a decimal and has to have a situation of rounding. So then give them a couple minutes to do that, and then you're going to have them come up to the board, write out their question, and they're going to help the class solve it. So they're going to use all the strategies that they've learned, any strategies that they may have come up with, and they're going to go ahead and do that for the class. Now, the problems that they come with do not have to be super complicated. They can just be a quick example and then asking them to round to the nearest tenths or hundredths place, but it does need to have that aspect of rounding. But they could, if they wanted to, get fancy and do addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, whatever they're comfortable with, which is a good extension activity. So we're going to do a quick example. So this is just an example of a really basic question that a student may have come up with. So it says, Sally's pet snail traveled 2.197 meters in one day, and they want you to round to the nearest hundredths place. So then as a class, you would have the students come up to the board, obviously, and they're going to write out their number, and then they're going to help the class solve it. So we're still going to have the rules on the board, so they have that thing that they can look back to. So since we're rounding to the hundredths place, we're going to find their place and we're going to circle it. You're going to then look next door, underline if you have to. These are all the strategies that could help them if they need it. And 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, let it soar. Since it's more than 5, this is more than 5, you're going to raise it. Now in this case, this is going to change the number a little bit more. So you would explain to your students that if this is still going to same, the numbers in front of the decimal is still going to stay the same. Since this is going to rise above 10, remember the BAM game, this is going to change this number as well. So this is going to become a 2. And then this one is going to become a 0 because you raised it up. And remember, the number after that is going to be 0, well, since you changed it. Another thing that may happen that your students may have questions about is that when you round down, how does that look? So we can go ahead and do a quick example of that. So we're still rounding to the hundredths place. We're going to circle that number. Four or less, you're going to let it rest. 5 or more, you're going to let it soar. Because it's less, it's going to stay the same. So that's going to change. But all the numbers behind are still going to change to a 0. So that would be your answer. hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit. These kinds of lessons can really be as complex or as simple as you like it to be. It really depends on how your students are handling it and how they're learning it. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and I hope y'all have a great day. Thanks.